start to identify how these proteins cycle.
And estimated that by the middle of the century,
actually makes your stress hormones go down faster.
Welcome to Brainwaves, a podcast about big ideas produced at the University of Colorado Boulder. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share this show. In 2005, about 5% of Americans were using social media regularly, according to Pew Research. Today, that same survey reveals that more than 70% of us are using social media platforms. Today on Brainwaves, we're increasingly learning, growing, living, and dying in a very public sphere. How is that shaping us as a society? And how can we handle all of this in a healthy way? We'll round out today with some helpful tips to keep your social media accounts, well, yours, as we talk to an internet privacy expert. Let's start with the real social media experts, 8th graders. They were just born when Pew did that first survey, but today much of their social life is carried out on apps like Instagram and Snapchat. We met up with a few of them at the public library, sorry for the echo, to find out what they think of the pros and cons of living online.
I'm Chloe and I'm 13.
I'm Aiden and I'm 14.
I'm Darby and I'm 14.
What do you think the benefits are of social media? All of these ways that you use to communicate with people or see what they're doing or see pictures. What do you think are the benefits of that?
I think the benefits are like meeting new people that you might not have met before, like that your friends are friends with, but you're not friends with them.
Like on my soccer team, I don't see them at school. I just see them at soccer, and then when the season's over, it's like we never met. But with Snapchat's like a way to keep in touch with them.
Have you in your life seen any of the negative effects of social media?
Like when I'm here in Boulder, like my parents limit me to how much I use, but when I go to California, so my grandma, like, I'm just always on my phone on Instagram and Snapchat.
Oh, and so she doesn't like that.
No, she's okay with it, but she's just like, I'm missing opportunities that I could have had.
Is she right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like gorgeous celebrities who are just quote unquote normal people take really pretty pictures all the time and you just see them, and that definitely makes me feel like, wow, I wish I looked like that or looked like them instead. So I think that's a pretty negative effect.
Do you think Instagram in particular is an accurate representation of life?
No way.
But in general, people are trying to present a better version of themselves in their lives. Would you say that's right?
Yeah. Nobody really wants to talk about the negative stuff that goes on in their life. So...
Yeah, and I feel like on Snapchat, like, people post on their story, like, oh, I'm hanging out with a bunch of friends, or, like, when you Snapchat them, it's, like, them, or just their friends, or something. It's, like, and then you're all alone, and it's, like, well.
So it looks like they're just living a great life.
Yeah, and it makes you feel worse, even though you know, like, I know I do that, when I'm with friends, I'm like, hey, look at me. But then it's, like, I don't know.
I think that's very accurate. But do you ever talk among yourselves about that?
Not really.
I talk about it with my family because my mom sees me on Instagram and Snapchat a lot, and she makes fun of me for like taking selfies all the time. And then we talk about how that's not really the kind of life that people have, I guess. But I don't talk about it with my friends.
So everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But everybody keeps doing it.
Yeah. Because, like, everyone, I don't know, I feel like it feels good sometimes when you, like, post something on your story that, it's like, wow, I actually do have a life. And you kind of, like, you're tricking yourself. Like, you might actually have a life, but it's just kind of like a brief lie. But I think it's better than on Snapchat than Instagram, because on Snapchat it just goes away, which is fun.
Do you feel more free to express yourself on Snapchat knowing that it's going to go away?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I send really ugly pictures to my friends, but like on Instagram, I would never post something like that because it's going to be on there for a while.
So do you think Snapchat is a more accurate representation of real life?
Yeah. Because, like, not on stories, but, like, personal, like, person to person. It's, like, when I'm with my friends, like, I don't care what I look like. I'll just post a picture of, like, whatever I'm whatever face I have at the moment. And it's like, whatever, I don't care if you like it, you're just my friend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When I take Instagram pictures, I put on like a pretty outfit and I pose, but if somebody sends me a Snapchat, I usually just take a really quick picture instead of like doing a lot of stuff for it. I mean, I think there's even a lot of pressure put on guys and girls to look just gorgeous all the time.
Like, I know a lot of guys post pictures of, like, skateboards or, like, I don't know. And it's like, I think, like, sporty or...
Yeah, we like post pictures of stuff that we like and that we want to show people. But, like, we don't always post the stuff that we don't want to show people.
So would you say it's to impress?
Yeah, I think so.
Do they talk about their feelings?
No, they don't.
Well, girls don't really do that either.
What are the rules in your schools about using your phones in class?
You can't have them. No phones. Like, they can't. If they see your phone during the school day, they get taken away, and then your parents have to come to the office and pick them up. It used to not be like that. This is a new rule, like this year.
How hard is that to be away from your phone all day?
It's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, because you're like focused on school and everything.
Yeah, you just put it in your locker and forget about it.
Do you think it would be a real distraction if you had access to your phone all day?
Yeah, last year it was a real distraction for lots of people.
In your school lives, do you see drama playing out on social media, or do you see negative effects of...
Yeah. Some people post like pretty inappropriate things, just speaking from my personal opinion, and then people talk about it at school.
Do you think they might have a different view of this in a few years if they were to go back and take it?
Definitely.
I would definitely have a different view. I would be embarrassed.
Sounds like these kids have it figured out at an early age. By the way, they don't use Facebook. That's for old people. But old people face their own social media challenges. For example, what should happen to your accounts when you die? How do we make it clear that you are dead so people don't upset your loved ones when they post a joke on your old person Facebook wall at your expense? Brainwave's young person, Molly Fannenstiel, finds some answers on that one.
If you died tomorrow, what would happen to your Facebook page? Would that last photo you were tagged in, that unflattering late-night shot, be forever etched there? Who would be sure memories left from mourning friends were appropriate and not from internet trolls? And what about all your texts, Instagram photos? Could they be used to make a digital memorial?
As an information scientist, I spend most of my day studying our online lives. But my career, it shifted when I started seeing profiles like Ashley's. I started to realize that our online lives, well, they don't end when we do.
That's Jed Brubaker, an assistant professor of information science at CU Boulder, and one of the few researchers in the country to study what happens to our data after we die. He's standing on the TEDx Mile High stage, recalling the first of several eerie experiences that led him to become, as he puts it, the death guy.
When I first encountered Ashley's profile, it appeared pretty typical for a 23-year-old woman. It included details like her name, her age, location. There were even messages posted by friends to celebrate a recent birthday. However, one thing was not immediately clear. You see, Ashley never celebrated that 23rd birthday because Ashley is dead.
Not long after that, Facebook launched a well-meaning algorithm called Reconnect, which encouraged people to reach out to other users who hadn't been active for a while.
The internet quickly lit up with anger over recommendations to reconnect with ex-lovers, spouses you would see daily offline, and perhaps most startling, friends who had a really good reason for being inactive. Yeah, friends who were no longer alive.
So Brubaker started interviewing people about their experiences interacting with the dead online. While tech companies are great at designing for big life events like weddings and birthdays, Brubaker discovered they often fail to consider that people die. 1.7 million Facebook users will die this year, affecting 511 million friendships. And many of those friends will turn back to social media for solace.
Death is expanding beyond traditional settings like funerals, wakes, or even those profiles. It's becoming part of our everyday social media experiences.
Brubaker has spent a decade working to make those interactions less painful and more fulfilling. And his research has led to big changes. In 2015, his research inspired Facebook, It launched a feature allowing users to designate a legacy contact who can write a final post, change or update profile or cover photos, and download photos to share with loved ones not on Facebook. The company also came up with a memorialized page design to more clearly indicate that the person was dead. But Brubaker's work is far from done. He says many tech companies still have no policy at all about what to do with the dead's data. Some just delete it.
It's like someone going into your grandmother's house after she's passed away and throwing away all her old journals. Just gone.
He sees a day when that data can be used to enhance our connection to those we've lost.
There are so many possibilities. Google Photos could give us scrapbooks that would never fade. Pinterest, it might be the greatest lifestyle archive in history. And text messages, today's modern love letters, they could allow future generations to look into their past and see where they have come from. After all, today's data are tomorrow's memories.
Ever been hacked? If so, you're far from alone. Surveys estimate between 22 and 66% of Americans have been victims of social media hacking. Meanwhile, every day university researchers and for-profit companies legally use your data for all kinds of things you probably aren't aware of. Brainwave's Lisa Marshall sat down with digital privacy expert Casey Fiesler, an assistant professor of information science, to talk details.
So it seems like every month we hear about another instance in which our data from an app or a social media site is used in a way that surprises us. But I also suspect that some of that is being done with our permission. So for starters, can you just kind of talk about when we click on those terms of service and we accept, what are some of the things that we're agreeing to that maybe we don't realize we're agreeing to?
Most people definitely don't realize because very few people read those documents that they're clicking through. There's all kinds of things in them, some of which probably shouldn't concern most people, some of which have to do with the use of your data. For example, even for copyright reasons, being able to modify your data to create derivative works, to show content in different kinds of ways, or provisions around how other people can use your data, for example, giving it to third parties. There are lots of things I think that would surprise people.
So I know that Twitter, for instance, I'm just going to read this, the privacy policy, it says broadly and instantly can disseminate your public information to a wide range of users, including search engines, developers, universities, public health agencies, and market research firms. So it sounds like some of this can be used for research purposes quite legally. Can you give me some examples of times that has happened or ways that researchers have used this information that might surprise people?
Right. So Twitter is a great example because Twitter content is, for the most part, all public. And the general ethical heuristic that researchers use for deciding whether they can study data is it public or not? And then it's fair game. There are thousands and thousands of papers that use Twitter data, everything from tracking flu trends to tracking hurricanes to deciding what people's political opinions are. And it's really, really common. And most people never know that their tweet might be quoted in an article somewhere. There have also been examples of researchers scraping data from places like OkCupid, the dating site, to look at people's answers to questions and see if there are correlations between different characteristics that they have. There is also sometimes internal research. Facebook a number of years ago had a research study where they manipulated news feeds to show people more positive or more negative content in order to see if it subsequently changed the kind of content that they posted. And this was something that was easy to do because our news feeds on Facebook are being changed all the time for all kinds of reasons. So why not try it for science, I guess?
Outside of science, any examples where it's being used maybe for more commercial purposes?
Data is being used for marketing in particular all the time. There are companies whose job it is to look at people's social media data to combine it in certain ways in order to figure out how to advertise to you. There have also been cases like A few years ago, an email service called Unroll Me that helped you organize your email sold data about people's Lyft receipts to Uber. And every time all of this happens, people are surprised. People were shocked by the Facebook research. They were shocked by this sale of data to Uber. I don't think it's inappropriate to be surprised. But by now, I think people should just realize that their data is going to be used in all of these kinds of ways. And the best thing you can do is to be careful about what you might put out there.
Why don't they quit? Why don't we walk away?
Yeah, this has been a really rough year for Facebook privacy. And of course, a lot of people do decide to quit Facebook or to quit all social media altogether. And you can make that decision, but it also incurs opportunity costs. Some people can afford those opportunity costs better than others. For example, in some developing countries, Facebook practically is the internet. There's very little other way to access the internet. Even here, people use Facebook for more than just looking at photos of your grandkids. It can be used for networking, for promoting a business, for connecting with your community. Even for me, when a friend leaves Facebook, I feel as if I don't have as much of a connection to them anymore. But if I left entirely, I would lose a lot of different kinds of connections in my life. I also think that people have a sense of kind of learned helplessness now when it comes to privacy. Why bother? I don't have privacy anymore anyway. Anything that's out there is going to be used in all these ways without my permission, so I might as well just not worry about it. Which isn't a great idea either, because the best thing that you can do is to pay attention to your own privacy settings and the kinds of data that you put out there. You're not going to be able to control everything, but maybe some of it.
So can you provide just a few quick tips on that? On if you want to play in social media, what can you do to protect your privacy?
You know, one suggestion that I have is actually extremely counterintuitive, which is to make your digital footprint bigger. For example, students often have this concern. They talk to me about, oh, I'm afraid what my potential employers might see about me on social media. The key is to actually have control over your own digital footprint. So if you create a website or have a very good LinkedIn account, it buries things you don't want people to see. So the best thing you can do is have control over what the most visible thing about you is. Whenever you sign up for a new service, consider the kind of data they're asking you for and why they would need it. You can often unclick boxes for the kinds of data that you're giving when you sign in with your Facebook account or with a Google account, for example. The more you pay attention, the better shape you'll be in.
So we have about 30 seconds left, and I just wanted to ask you, there was some news this week. Facebook is in talks with the Federal Trade Commission for a multi-billion-dollar settlement over privacy. And it sounds, and the federal government is definitely trying to play a role in solving this problem. So my question is, whose responsibility is it? Is it us as users? Is it the companies? Is it the government to sort of address this privacy problem?
That's a great question, and the answer is that there is a lot of shared responsibility. I think that people tend to go straight away to regulation by the government, for example, and it might help. But also changing social norms around privacy and the steps, of course, that a company like Facebook itself could take. And with the spotlight on Facebook, things that they do could also influence other companies in terms of having better privacy practices, which I think would be great.
Well, that's it. Thanks so much for your time, and we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Brainwaves. I'm Paul Bake. Join us next week as we talk about big changes in how political candidates raise money and big changes in how you vote. Thanks to middle schoolers Aiden, Chloe, and Darby. And a huge thank you to Molly Fannensteel and Andres Belton. They graduate from CU Boulder this week, and we know they're going to crush it wherever they apply their substantial talents. Lisa Marshall, Dirk Martin, and I produced today's episode. Andrew Sorensen is our executive producer. Andres Belton created our introduction. See you next time on Brainwaves.